presentations to the town, one to the Public Safety Building Committee and one to town meeting.
One town meeting, and the other...
Then the updated
floor plans.
Architectural rendering of color suitable for presentation at town meeting, an estimated cost for the preparation of design and construction drawings, and a conceptual estimate of the probable cost of construction of the building based on our experience with comparable projects.
Right. Quote unquote.
Get all that for $5,000.
Quote unquote. Also presented tonight was the floor plan, the renderings that have already been done. Mr. Chow.
Just for the record, I'd like to point out, at the end of the letter, the last person copied on this letter is myself. And at the beginning of it, it says not sent, which I don't know what means. But for the record, I saw a copy of this letter at 3 o'clock this afternoon from the town administrator. I have not received a copy of it. And Mr. Jones gave me this tonight. I just want that for the record.
And again, I think one of the other things that's important to note that under the charter, the only one who's authorized to enter into contract is the person holding the position of town administrator too, and is not even CC'd a copy on this yet. So, again, this is a draft. I don't know if this is usually drafting. A formal proposal doesn't say draft on it, but it does give us some clarification that, again, it somewhat contradicts what was put in the original January 16th letter, which does help clarify the situation. There's no doubt that this outfit has performed some pro bono work, I guess, to the community. It's just a question of to what degree. Again, in the January 16th letter, he states that he already gave you a set of floor plans, already made a presentation to you, and that amount of time and effort expended about $3,000 worth of chores. And in order to complete the task for town meeting, based upon your conversation with them, you'd be looking for another $3,000. Now, the draft letter that was presented to us today, or this evening, said they would need $5,000. So this is the most recent figure we're working with, rather than the 6. Mr. Reitmeyer.
I'd just like to state that a simple phone call by the town administrator when he saw this letter to any member of the committee could have cleared up quite a bit of this confusion. It would have solved the problem of all this, looks like we were trying to fraud the town.
Oh, I don't think anybody was inferring that the police station building committee was doing anything wrong, because at the time, when all this work was transpiring and taking place, you people hadn't even reorganized. I don't even think you were a member of the committee at the time, Mr. Reitmeyer. So nobody was even inferring that. But as far as the original letter, it was presented by a member of the police station building committee to the town administrator, which is Lieutenant Nolan. Said, "Do you know anything about this?" "Oh, to you. And I don't want me to put words in anybody's mouth, so the town administrator can tell what he did. I think he called the outfit and said, "Hi, how are you?" and introduced himself.
The point that I was trying to get at, though, is that I became a member of the committee along with other members, and we weren't even notified that the architect was discharged or told not to even bother to come back in town until 3 or 4 days later by a copy of the letter. I mean, if one of us received a phone call by the town administrator, we could explain that the first part definitely was a phone call. There was some misunderstanding on this, which the draft of this here clearly...
Oh, I know, but you have to understand, the letter came from the principal of the architectural firm and said that he expended $3,000 of the money already. There was no money, no town money. It was not an obligation of the town, and that's where the misunderstanding came. Again, he had never even met the town administrator, who's the authorizing agent for the community. And Mr. Ralph.
The committee, tell us what you're here for and whether the committee is in favor of asking for the $5,000 so we know where we are.
It was voted unanimously by this committee to come after the money so that Franco and Alexander could continue to make their presentation at the town meeting, just as you see in the letter of the 26th. It if you go around and look at around some of the police stations they've done in the state of Massachusetts, you'd want them quick.
Mainly the money, Mr. Rowland, is for the computer graphics and so forth that they want to present at town meeting to show exactly what we've accomplished so far.
I don't know if, Tom and George, maybe you can explain what the procedures are for entering into contracts and the limitations and what the procedures at town hall are and what state law requires before we enter into contracts, so everybody's clear. Tom, or either one, Tom?
So some of the one being questioned, I'll be the one that answers.
Yeah, okay.
First of all, you could not do $5,000. Under Mass General Law, Chapter 30B, any procurement of $5,000 or greater requires 3 quotes. So the $5,000 figure is a moot point to begin with it, as of right now. As a town policy, we generally go for 3 quotes between $1,000 and $10,000. State law is $5,000. When I received the fax from Lieutenant Nolan on January 16th, January 19th, I'm sorry, the letter of January 16th, it stated that they had expended approximately $3,000 of that budget. That they have stated they've expended $3,000. They did not contract with us for that amount. So I don't know how I can back pay something that I didn't agree to in the first place. So I think that's the first issue. Secondly, when you're going out for quotes, generally the department will contact either George Dow or myself regarding the procedures for such. I was not notified of any request for the funding until I received the fax from Lieutenant Nolan. And in the fax, it already states that $3,000 was expended, and apparently they were approached and that they were willing to do this for $6,000 plus printing costs. Under Chapter 30B, that couldn't be possible. So I contacted Mr. Alexander, talked to him, and asked him, regarding you authorized for such, and according to him he was. And sent back to him is that I'm the one that authorizes. I'm the one that has to approve under the charter. No one else can do so. So I sent back to him is that you were never authorized to proceed with a $5,000 budget, and at this time there is no funds available for this project. If you wish to continue the job pro bono, that's fine, but there's nothing to pay him at this point. There is no contract. There is no quotes. So I was just doing my job.
Smith?
Yeah, I guess, Mr. Younger, under that assumption, what you've just said is any contract that's agreed to in the town and authorizing that exceeds $1,000 has got to receive 3 competitive bids.
Not bids, sir, quotes.
Quotes, all right, three competitive
Don't
quotes.
do bids till past $10,000.
So anytime we expend over $1,000, we have to have 3 competitive quotes. Okay, thank you.
You do not have to, Mr. Smith, for clarification, you have to go out for 3 quotes. You don't necessarily have to have 3 quotes in hand. If a company refuses to quote you, you have to show that you made an effort to get the 3
To
quotes.
seek 3 quotes.
Okay, I
Sometimes-
understand it. So that's any project over $1,000.
That's the policy. If there one or a few have gotten away from us that we haven't seen, I'm sorry, I haven't seen that. But I'm just stating, in this case, it was sent to me that we had a that we had a $5,000 budget, and that we're requesting a $6,000 agreement.
Then can I suggest to you and, I guess, you, George, if in fact we take the $5,000, $5,060.23, whatever it is, turn that money back into free cash, and then allow the the police building committee to go to the finance committee for a transfer of funds from the finance committee for the possibility of a feasibility study for the police station. How would that fit?
See, the chairman.
You want him to answer me?
Well, no, I'm just saying, I'm just asking a question, I guess, yeah.
Mr. Jones, Mr. Chairman of the Finance Committee, Jones.
Let me go first.
All right, Mr. Dow first.
The process doesn't change.
Pardon me?
The process doesn't change.
Okay.
Which is,
So you can't transfer any funds from
They could
the
transfer
Finance
it.
Committee for a feasibility study?
Oh, they could absolutely transfer it. The process wouldn't change. 3 quotes.
3 quotes before you do it. Okay, thank
and
you.
generally what you do is you seek quotes on proposals for work to be done prior to it being done.
That's on any project?
Well, yeah, you don't,
Didn't we, I have a question.
Mr. Rose.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, you know, Mr. Smith keeps saying any project. Well, under 30B, there are a number of exemptions. This doesn't happen to be one of them.
And it has to be an unforeseen circumstance and stuff like that?
No, that, there's nothing to do with it.
no.
You're talking reserve fund,
I'm talking reserve
unforeseen
fund.
or emergency.
Right.
But coming to
Unforeseen or
the
emergency.
finance committee and asking for money to fund something that doesn't square with chapter 30B puts a finance committee in an improper position, and I don't think they respond to it that way.
Well,
I'll
okay,
defer to Mr.
Mr.
Bailey.
Bagan.
Yeah, so right now, what we need to do is they need to get 3 quotes. Do you have the procedures that they need to follow so we can move forward?
If you're going in excess of $5,000, you need 3 quotes.
I understand
If I could-
that.
How do we get to
You will
5,000?
lead them through the process.
His letter, 5,000 bucks.
Okay.
If they wish to
Excess of
accept
$5,000.
$5,000.
Okay, I mean, I think that's all we're here for.
I think if maybe I can,
Should we belabor this?
no, yeah, maybe we can let some
Can we do
assistance here.
something constructive?
Yeah, but this is what we're looking at. If I go back to the original letter, as to what was done, what needed to be done to complete, excuse me?
Mr. Chairman, can we ask for 4,900?
Excuse me. If I might make a suggestion, that's, if we go back to the original January 16th letter, as to what he said has already been completed, in which I think we can all acknowledge, there was not a contract with the town. So there's not an obligation of the town per se, because there was no contract with the town. Now, whether if there were private funds that want to be raised to pay this outfit to do that, that'd be a wonderful thing, and I don't think anybody at this table, or in this community, or in this town hall would be opposed to that. It's a great thing. But what he said was he needed an additional $3,000 to complete the work necessary to make the presentation at town meeting and get the, whatever, plans in order to do it. So it would appear, based on this letter, and I know there's a letter of clarification here, that he needed another $3,000. This is work that has not been completed yet. We could go out and get 3 quotes on, say, how much would it, you know, attempt to get 3 quotes to pick up this thing from where it is, and we could then have $3,000 worth of work done if Mr. Feingold, Mr. Alexander says, you know, he's already told us $3,000 to complete the work, to bring it to town meeting. That would provide at least $3,000. It's under the $5,000 threshold, and then we can determine whether or not, then according to 30B, internal policy is go get 3 quotes. And if the town administrator says, you know, Feingold and Associates, Alexander and Associates are the best, the most reputable firm to carry on based upon the work that they've already done, you know, this sort of thing, and they can pick it up and run with it and get it done in a short time frame, that's a good scenario to go ahead and contract for the $3,000 additional work that needs to be completed with Feingold, Alexander and Associates. Then it's just a question of where do the funds come from? The funds, you know, if the finance director and the chairman of the finance committee and the town administrator back and find out that, you know, it can be utilized and the funds are available, you know, then, you know, personally, I have a problem going back to 1994 and reaching back in, but I also know that the work needs to be completed. The police station building committee has put in an awful lot of time and effort, and yeoman's work with the assistance of this outfit to get us to the point where we're at, which is terrific. So that we do have a, appears to be a viable project at the current site for consideration. You know, then we could utilize $3,000 of that, which is legitimate. And there are all the laws and rules and regulations, but that's just my idea at this point. Mr. Young.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Prior to this meeting, I was prepared to come in with the recommendation of $3,000, but we received a letter now that it was a $5,000 proposal, and the $5,000 proposal could not work under 30B at this point. But if you want to go with $3,000, as stated, We can do that.
Well, the town administrator can contact Mr. Alexander. and see if
Mr.
that's
Younger,
great.
they put in a request for $4,999.